Deja vu at the 49ers facility today, but with a twist. Jimmy Garoppolo was back at practice, and in a lot of ways, especially when you just looked at it, it seemed that he had never left. And I guess technically he was just over on the side field, a few yards away throughout this entire bizarre saga, but he seemed so far away, right? It seemed that this would never happen, what we saw today at 49ers practice. But it did happen, and I have photographic evidence. It's right up there. You can see that a little bit bigger on the screen. That's from today. That's not from 2021. Jimmy Garoppolo on the left, Trey Lance on the right. The twist, of course, is that they have reversed roles. Trey Lance is now the 49ers starting quarterback, and Jimmy Garoppolo is now the backup, as we've discussed a lot here over the past couple of days. But today, we finally got to see it with our own eyes. To me, it was this weird combination. It was surreal. It was like I hopped into a time machine, but then it was made even more bizarre by the fact that they have actually reversed roles. So it's like going back to your old high school years and years after, and everything looks familiar, but everything feels a little bit different, right? So that was what today seemed like to me. Here they are, Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo, both throwing side by side at the 49ers facility. We'll let some of this footage roll as we talk about this on today's show. Hello, everybody, by the way. Welcome. It's Thursday evening. Hope everybody's having a splendid week. Get ready to finish off your week very productively. The 49ers certainly did. It is September 1st today, and that is 7 months after Jimmy Garoppolo's supposed farewell press conference, exactly to the day. February 1st was the day, 2 days after the NFC title game, that Jimmy Garoppolo said goodbye to the media, said goodbye to the fans. Well, today, Jimmy Garoppolo was back up at that lectern, definitely with a different demeanor. And that was after practice. First, we can just watch both of these guys throwing, plus Brock Purdy, who's wearing jersey number 13 after switching from number 14. But either way, welcome to Full Circle September. Garoppolo and Lance back at 49ers practice. And, you know, in observance of Full Circle September, maybe we could play this sucker right here. Why don't we open this up, add it to the stream, turn on my volume. This was exactly 7 months ago today.
And yeah, I'll miss you guys. So thank you guys again very much for everything. It's been crazy, man. Just all the comebacks at Levi's, comebacks on the road, ups and downs. It's been a hell of a ride, guys. I love you guys. So see ya.
Okay, that was 7 months ago today, literally February 1st, 2 days after the NFC Championship game. And his eyes were welling up with tears. We didn't think that we'd see Jimmy Garoppolo in a 49ers uniform again. Well, fast forward 7 months and check this out.
What's going on, everyone? Got a new microphone.
Does this feel weird right now?
I mean, just getting back in the swing of things, I think. It'll take a couple days to get back into it, but no, it's nice to see you guys again, man. It's been a while.
So there he was, obviously in a better mood than he was on February 1st. So what a difference 7 months make. Now, there's a lot to take from all of this, and I get the controversy. I get the media hailstorm. And what's really interesting to me is that the 49ers are just taking it head on. They're saying, no, we're going to do things the way that we want to do things regarding building a strong quarterback room. They're not following all these, I think outdated football stereotypes. They're really into the competition at every single position, but they're also into clearly defining roles, which is what they did in this quarterback situation. They obviously invested a ton in Trey Lance, and they obviously don't want to undermine their investment, which is why I always thought that it was crazy to say, oh, well, the 49ers are undermining Trey Lance with this move. They're the ones, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are the ones whose jobs are essentially tethered to Trey Lance's performance. If he completely flames out, it doesn't look too good for Kyle Shanahan or John Lynch. So they know Trey Lance a lot better than the casual fan, the casual reporter even. And if they think that Trey Lance can handle having Jimmy Garoppolo, somebody who he really likes, in the room, I think they probably have a solid beat on it. Now, this, what I just said is very true. I think it's very, very apparent that Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance genuinely like each other. just take this. We're going to put Trey Lance up on the screen right now. Trey Lance spoke before Jimmy Garoppolo today, so we saw both of them up at the lectern. And I've never seen Trey Lance glowing as much as he did today. If he's just saying this stuff for PR purposes, he's one hell of an actor. He should probably be in Hollywood. He shouldn't be playing football. You could probably make more money as an A-list actor than a quarterback on a rookie contract. But just watch and just see how bubbly Trey Lance was today talking about his teammate, Jimmy Garoppolo. Watch him stride in, too, of course.
What's up, everybody?
What was it like to have Jimmy back out there? Just rotating drills with you.
It was awesome. It's good to have him back. Good to have him back in the building, in the QB room again. Man, just like I said, man, he's been a big brother to me since my first day in the league. Since I got drafted, the day I got drafted. So, man, I know he's got my back. I got his back, and I'm excited to go through this year with him. Man, he's gonna add a lot to our QB room. I mean, that's the goal for us: is to have the best QB room in the league. And then we're pretty damn close if we're not there. But I'm super excited just to have him in the room. Another guy again who's done it. Got to watch him do it last year. Got to learn a ton from him, and I'm going to continue to learn as much as I can from him. You know, take all the advice that he's got from me this year.
Okay, I hope that you guys heard that. Our goal is to have the best QB room in the league, and we're pretty damn close to it right now. Again, our goal is to have the best quarterback room in the league. What did I say as soon as this move was made? Like, literally, my first tweet was, the 49ers have been preaching depth at every position, including quarterback depth, and they want to make that room stronger, period. No other BS. All this other drama stuff about, these guys might not like each other. They might not like the competition. Cut it out. These are professional athletes in a building to do a job. And that job is to make the football team as good as possible so they can win as many games as possible. And when you think from a winning mindset like that, I mean, you could think from two mindsets. You could think from the dramatic soap opera mindset, or you could think from the mindset of, somebody who's actually an athlete and you think about competing and trying to build something, work together as men to build something that could win, that can go and defeat something that another group of men have built. And the 49ers firmly have attached themselves to the latter group of thinking. That's what Lynch has tried to install into this organization. That's what Kyle Shanahan has tried to install into this organization. They're obviously on the same page. And with that, they're thinking about competition at every single position. They're also thinking about defined roles at every single position. And they've clearly defined the quarterback roles to be able to foster healthy competition there. This is not look over your shoulder competition. This is men working toward a goal competition. And if you couldn't tell from the comments from Jimmy Garoppolo and from Trey Lance, and you could watch the full videos up on the channel right now, it's 7 minutes for each of them. If you couldn't tell, that's the mentality that they're in. That's the mentality that they were in last year, and it worked out for the 49ers. There were a couple things that were hiccups for them, and they definitely weren't related to Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance not getting along. The hiccups were injury related, right? You had Trey Lance chipping his finger against the Raiders in week 3 of the preseason. You had Trey Lance then hurting his knee against the Cardinals. Jimmy Garoppolo hurting his, what was it? For Jimmy Garoppolo, I believe it was a knee too, right? I lost track of some of these injuries. I believe it was, I think it was a knee injury for Jimmy Garoppolo against the Seahawks that put Trey Lance into the game. Calf injury. It was a calf injury. Calf injury, the knee was prior, obviously. That was ACL. So calf injury for Jimmy Garoppolo. Then you have the ripped ligament in the thumb against the Tennessee Titans. And then Jimmy Garoppolo obviously tore the capsule in his shoulder in the playoffs against the Dallas Cowboys. So but all those injuries, I count like 4 of them, right? 2 to each quarterback, or actually 3 to Garoppolo, 2 to Trey Lance. So 5 total injuries. That was the only issue last year, was injuries to both of these players. The issue wasn't chemistry between them. The issue wasn't that competition was somehow bad for quarterbacks. These two guys learned from each other. Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, was pushed a little bit by Trey Lance, who brought a new skill set to the table. And Trey sat there and learned from an accomplished NFL veteran at quarterback. So when the only issues were injury related, then it makes sense to solve that problem by making sure that you have the depth necessary to insulate yourself from injuries affecting the room moving into 2022. Listen, the 49ers have a really, really strong roster. So it would have been a disaster had Trey Lance been the sole competent quarterback because you still don't know what you have from Purdy, and you still don't know what you had in Nate Sudfeld because those guys hadn't really played in big stakes football at the NFL level, right? Preseason doesn't really count. Sudfeld had some action over in Philadelphia a couple years ago, but that was roundly mocked. They kept him in that game despite the fact that they probably should have been playing to ruin the opposition's playoff chances. And Doug Peterson, their coach, got fired. That was Sudfeld's extent of actual NFL experience. So you need capability at the quarterback position. And I mean QB2, not just QB1, especially if you're the 49ers. So the only issue so far in the Garoppolo-Lance relationship has been the injury issue. And that has nothing to do with how they interact with each other. So the only answer to that issue is to, either turn off injuries on Madden. And I don't think you could do that because I don't think that we're playing a video game, or you can make sure that you're bulked up in that quarterback room as much as possible. And they were able to acquire Jimmy Garoppolo for this 2022 season. So that all worked out. And when we talk about the personalities, the 49ers have once again showed that they have a very strong belief in their selection of locker room personalities. This is something that I'm going to pop open on the screen because Shanahan said it today on John Lynch said it today on the Rich Eisen show. But I think this is kind of the coup de grace quote to hopefully, I know it won't put it to rest. I know that people are going to talk about this ad nauseum forever and forever and forever, as long as Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance are on the same team. But if we're just trying to look at this intelligently from a drama-free analytical standpoint, this quote from John Lynch, I think, really illustrates how the 49ers actually feel about this situation. So here we go. Let's get this one up there for you. Speaking on Thursday's Rich Eisen show, let me just get this so you could focus on there. There we go. Speaking on Thursday's Rich Eisen show, Lynch addressed one of the loudest outside concerns about the maneuver, that Garoppolo's presence might undermine Lance's new position as the 49ers starting quarterback. Lynch said that he and Coach Kyle Shanahan actually summoned a group of 49ers players as they finalized the move to re-sign Garoppolo as a backup. Here's the quote from Lynch. Kyle and I, we pulled 15 players from our team, our leadership committee, Lynch said. We told them, here's what we're doing. Here's why we're doing it. We wanted to let the guys know that it was our belief in this team, in those guys in the room. And we know we've created a culture and we got the men that can handle a situation like this. While the rest of the world may think it's uncomfortable that we're not supporting our lead guy, we don't believe in that. We believe in this team and we think it makes us better. Boom. Some alpha stuff right there. Everybody wants to follow the leader on the internet. Everybody wants to be trendy and be like, oh, well, somebody's feelings might be hurt. And, this is the way that quarterbacks have always been treated in football. And it's not really the case. The 49ers are the most famous example of a quarterback situation actually working out where they had two good quarterbacks, and obviously in Joe Montana and Steve Young. But, everybody kind of gets into this groupthink. There's one way to handle this situation, even though when you actually logically examine it, that kind of groupthink doesn't really make sense if you have depth at all the other positions. Well, John Lynch just comes back at that groupthink right now and completely slaps it in the face. He says, while the rest of the world may think it's uncomfortable that we're not supporting our lead guy, we don't believe in that. He straight up just says, we don't believe in it. We believe in this team and we think it makes it better. And this goes back to what I said right after the 49ers initially made this move. I said that, everybody was thinking cynically. Maybe it's just a byproduct of the modern age, right? Everybody has to think cynically. Okay, what's wrong here? Who's trying to get screwed over here? I know the 49ers front office. I've been covering this team for several years. And I said, hey, I don't think the 49ers are thinking about this cynically. I think the 49ers are thinking about this opportunistically and positively, because that's just how Lynch and Shanahan are wired. And then I looked at the business structure of the deal and where they were trying to go with Jimmy Garoppolo, what ended up happening. And I said, no, this is not cynical. This is a situation in which they're actually reaffirming their belief in Trey Lance. Because if they had some questions about his heart, about his mental makeup, about his resilience, about his ego, if it was too fragile, the last thing they would do is re-sign Jimmy Garoppolo to threaten that development of Trey Lance. Because again, Shanahan and Lynch are tethered to Lance. If Lance flames out, Shanahan and Lynch might not be long for this job. That's how much, that's how many poker chips they push to the middle of the table to get Trey Lance. So he has to work out, right? Like it's one of those things where they need to hitch their wagon to that, right? They've invested so much in that. So if you do anything to undermine him, that is completely asinine on Shanahan and Lynch's part. So they must feel really strongly that something like this will not undermine him, that it will only make their roster stronger. And that's why I think that this quote is absolutely, absolutely fascinating. They pull 15 players aside, say, hey, here's the deal, the leaders of the team. And they say, we believe in you guys. That's why we're making this move. That's called a proactive move and not a reactive move, right? A lot of people make reactive moves. A lot of people make moves based on, they're walking on eggshells. They're tiptoeing around. Oh, we don't want to offend this guy. We don't want to offend this guy. In football in general, that's just not how it works. Normally you stack positions, right? But at quarterback, everybody is a little dainty with it. Well, they weren't dainty with this. We believe in this team and we think it makes us better. Boom. That's exactly what John Lynch said. Now, I wrote about this today right here. The Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance pairing returned to the 49ers with a twist. And this is up on The Athletic. And it's focused, on the quotes from Jimmy Garoppolo and from John Lynch and from Trey Lance, really try to intertwine everything together. It's up on The Athletic. So I'm going to toss this into the comment section right now so you can go ahead and check it out. Now, it's ironic that the 49ers are going back to Chicago in week 1, which is where Jimmy Garoppolo made his first start for the 49ers. It'll be the first time that he's a backup quarterback for the 49ers, right? Even though he might have been active for that game against Houston last year, but that was an injury thing. So, and it's also his hometown. In the Bears, by the way, the Bears are really close to moving from Soldier Field, from this finalizing the decision. They want to do it. The city of Chicago is trying to stop it from happening. The Bears want to move like the 49ers did from the city to the suburbs. The Bears want to move from Chicago, Soldier Field to Arlington Heights, which is all the way by O'Hare Airport. They bought the racetrack there and they want to build their own stadium because they want to be on their own property. Well, guess what Arlington Heights is? That's Jimmy Garoppolo's hometown. I kid you not. Jimmy Garoppolo is from Arlington Heights specifically, and the Bears are talking about moving there. This is all kind of crazy how it all comes together. But the 49ers obviously would not like to see Garoppolo see significant action against the Bears. Their preference is that their QB1 plays well and doesn't get hurt. And even Lance playing poorly against the Bears, I don't think would cause him to get the leash. I mean, that's something that's going to take a little bit longer, but an injury obviously would. And injuries have happened. Lance got hurt twice last year in fairly limited action. 49ers offensive line is a question mark, especially in pass protection. Lance is going to run the football probably a lot, right? So it makes all the sense in the world to have some insurance for him at that position. And I have to say that Jimmy Garoppolo is pretty damn good insurance for the 49ers. So anyway, check out the article. I have posted that link in there. You guys can check it out right there. I don't know if you could click on it on the screen, but it is in the chat section as we go through some more of these points. Other news today, Philadelphia claimed Trey Sermon, former 49ers running back, 3rd-round pick, 2021, barely made the initial 53-man roster. But as soon as the 49ers needed another spot, which was like 12 hours after finalizing the first roster, they said goodbye to Trey Sermon because they had Hance. They had Blake Hance, the offensive lineman who they claimed off of the Cleveland Browns cut list. They needed to bulk up the offensive line to 10 players. So Hance is on board now, and Trey Sermon is not. Now, the 49ers, we talked to John Lynch and Adam Peters today. I'm going to give you guys a little cool tour of the 49ers facility because we were actually in the building and in the John McVay draft room today talking to John Lynch and Adam Peters. The 49ers actually hoped that they were going to get Trey Sermon back on the practice squad. They thought that, okay, maybe he'll clear waivers, but I think it was always a long shot because, listen, the 49ers were trying to trade him. And I speculated about this on the show, right, a few days ago. I'm like, are they trying to trade Trey Sermon? And they indeed were trying to trade him because they were talking him up, and he was kind of struggling in those preseason games. And supposedly John Lynch said that the Eagles were the ones that initiated some of these trade talks. He said He actually, let me clarify. Lynch didn't say the Eagles initiated. He said a couple of other teams initiated. And today, Adam Schefter reported that the Eagles were talking to the 49ers about a trade for Trey Sermon a few days ago. So if we connect the dots, Lynch was talking about the Eagles in all likelihood, right? Anyway, I don't know the reason, and I'm not going to go and speculate as to why, but the trade didn't happen, right? So the 49ers carried Sermon on the initial 53. Then they waived him, and the Eagles picked him up. So probably the Eagles didn't didn't give the 49ers a formal offer, but there were discussions about this, and now Trey Sermon is no longer a 49er. Just over a year after he joined the team, right? He joined the team as a third-round pick in 2021. So Shanahan and Lynch moved on from that quickly. They keep on restocking at that running back position. Ty Davis-Price, the latest body that they added there through the draft, also in the third round. And obviously, you have Jordan Mason, who has switched his number from 41 to 24. I saw there was a guy on Twitter who bought a Jordan Mason jersey at 41, and he wasn't too happy when Mason switched to 24. So if the 49ers are watching this, and if that guy's watching this, 49ers it would be a nice gesture from the team to send him a new Jordan Mason jersey with the correct number now, number 24. Other guys changed numbers today, by the way. You saw Mooney Ward. He's number 7 now. And Danny Gray moved from 86 to 6. So he looks a whole lot faster, right? The single digits just make you look faster. You just are faster. You put on a single digit, your 40 time goes down a 1/10 or maybe even 2/10 of a second. It's just the rules. I'm not making this up. This is true. These are the rules. If you have a single digit number, you run a 4.3 instead of a 4.5. So in Danny Gray's case, he ran a 4.3 with 86. Danny Gray now runs a 4.1. He runs a world record 40. He runs a 4.1 because he switched over to number 6. Definitely looked even faster today. Sonny Dykes, who's the coach of TCU, but was Danny Gray's coach with SMU. I guess he parties with Kyle Shanahan and Cabo. I think John Lynch mentioned that today. Like Kyle makes all these connections either in Del Mar, which is San Diego, or in Cabo in the offseason. Del Mar is where Kyle Shanahan threw the ball into the pizza oven with Joe Staley across the street. But in Cabo, which is where Kyle loves to go in the offseason, I guess he linked up with Sonny Dykes, former Cal coach actually, but Texas guy. So Sonny, Coach Danny Gray at SMU. And Sonny told Kyle, I've never felt speed like that before on a football field about Danny Gray. And let me tell you what, Sonny's a very offensive-minded coach. One of those guys almost doesn't care about defense. He's all about speed, offense, air raid kind of guy. Comes from that whole school of thought. So he knows what speed on the football field is because he's, been coaching spread offenses for decades. And for him to say that he hasn't felt speed like that on a football field before, I think that's a really big compliment for Danny Gray. And we saw it against the Packers in week 1. Trey Lance connected on a deep bomb with Danny Gray, and Trey let that ball go in 2.5 seconds, snap to release. I've talked about this before. Normally a go route like that, the quarterback has to hold it for at least 3 seconds, maybe more, for the receiver to have enough time to get open. Danny Gray was fast enough for Lance to be able to let go of that ball in 2.5 seconds, rendering sketchy pass protection from the tackles obsolete. Even though I believe it was School McKivitz on the play, right? I think School on one side, McKivitz on the other. Even though those guys didn't hold up very long in pass protection on that play, it didn't matter because Danny Gray got open so quickly. So we talk about the 49ers' issues at pass protection. Well, speedy receivers are one way to try to overcome some of that, at least on that play. So anyway, speed that Sonny Dykes had not felt on a football field in Danny Gray. Speaking of Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance, let's get back to the topic at hand here. Let's just enjoy this ride. Let me look at this picture. Look at this article. They're both back on the practice field. Maybe I should just play the video. Let's go back and let's watch Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo on the practice field today. This is crazy stuff, guys. Just think about what you're seeing here. Think about the fact that I played you a video a few minutes ago of Jimmy Garoppolo giving a tearful farewell address to 49ers fans, and then realize that they're both back out there. Look, I'm going to fast forward to them doing their drills at the start of practice because there are a couple things that are different. Lance started the footwork stuff here. And, one of the main things that's different is the last time these two were on the practice field together, The quarterback's coach was Rich Scangarello. And Rich is now the offensive coordinator at the University of Kentucky. Bobby Slowick is in the red shirt with the white hat. Slowick was here before. So Slowick knew Garoppolo from before. But the new QB coach on the right, wearing the black with the white sleeves, is Brian Griese. And Brian Griese, I don't think had been in much contact at all with Jimmy Garoppolo over the course of these past few months because everybody just assumed that Jimmy would be going to a different team. And then for reasons that we'll talk about in a little bit, we've gotten a little bit more insight on everything. Jimmy didn't go to another team. So now he's working under Brian Griese. And one thing about Brian Griese's quarterback's room, it's been much more hands-on drill training this year. I mean, look at Slowick right here. Slowick is acting like a pass rusher. He's running there with his arms stretched out. They're making Trey Lance work on his release angles. Brian Griese himself likes to run around, catch the football. I just think that, it just looks markedly different when you watch the drills this year versus last. And to me, it's, it feels like we teleported and combined, different space-time continuums. Sorry for those people who have higher IQs than me that will call me out for that not making any sense. But it seems that we've combined the past and the future, right? We have Garoppolo and Lance in the same room, but now we have the new coaching style. Now we have Brian Griese running around. We have Bobby Slowick much more hands-on than he was under Rich Scangarello. I mean, it's fascinating stuff. I mean, this is a 10-minute video, so I could let this play for a little while. We could see, I just wanted to give you an uninterrupted look at the flow of practice because I could post 5 or 10-second clips and those are fun. And, a lot of people will spread those around on the internet and, they'll get a look into what it, might have visually looked like. But I want you to feel what practice felt like. Right. And when we see this, then we see Garoppolo and Lance occasionally joking around. We see Garoppolo standing next to Purdy. That's something that we hadn't seen. But now I see Purdy change jersey numbers from 14 to 13. So Purdy's wearing the Steve Bono, right? Trey Lance still with the 5, but Purdy now has moved to 13. So you just see how guys interact with each other. You see how the coaching style works. You get a feel for what's going on at 49ers practice. And right now they're setting up the drill that puts the quarterbacks back to the defense. Because this is what happens in play action. Your back's to the defense, boom, turn around, reacquire the target, right? So this is tricky for a lot of QBs. Garoppolo had actually never done this before until he came to the 49ers. Back to the defense, boom, turn around, reacquire the target. Now, Lance had background before he came to the 49ers doing this because North Dakota State runs a pro-style offense. But Garoppolo didn't, which is really interesting. And that way, Lance might have been more polished when he joined the 49ers. So that's the end of that video. We just watched all few minutes of that, but let's get me back up on the screen. Anyway, I really just wanted to share that because hopefully that's your little peek into what happened on the 49ers practice field today. But I do really think that it's something to enjoy just because, we're football fans, right? And we're fans of the story. And I think it's cool. I think it's a really good story. And I think most people agree with me because everybody's been talking about this here for the last couple of days. Everybody, subscribe to The Athletic. I'm going to pop open this article up on the screen one more time for you. There you go. Check this one out. I'm going to put this in the chat section. And we're going to talk a little bit about what Jimmy Garoppolo said today, which, is a little bit of a summary of what has gone down, what's transpired over the past 7 months, but also, it's summary peppered with new insight because Jimmy has spoken for the first time in a long time. So the article's back there in the chat section. Let me put this on the bottom here. Jimmy speaks again. I'm going to do a new text title right here. Jimmy speaks again. I go through this in the article. And, Jimmy talked about a lot of stuff. And one thing that really stood out to me is he said, I think Matt Mayoko asked, did you ever just think about asking for your release? Were you just getting sick of waiting around and ask for your release? And Jimmy actually was honest. He said, yeah, to be honest, it crossed my mind because they were just kind of like, letting him wait out there. They told him, hey, you can go ahead and look for a trade. The problem was that finding a trade was difficult because A, the 49ers would have to agree to the compensation exchange, and B, Jimmy was going to have to renegotiate his contract, right? So it actually was, with all the musical chairs stopped after the injury, it was a really difficult position for Garoppolo to be in because a trade was going to be unlikely. You know, unless Watson got suspended for the full season and the Browns wanted to go in that direction, or the Seahawks weren't tanking. I don't know if they are or not, but sometimes it seems like it with Geno Smith, their quarterback, and Drew Lock there. So, you know, if a team had more desperately needed a QB, then, you know, maybe Garoppolo moves. But it didn't happen. Nothing was going to happen. And Jimmy was forthright. He said, yeah, there was a time when I decided that I did want to release, but he didn't voice those concerns. He just that passed, and he just decided to be a better team, be a good sport about it. I don't want to say team player because he's just being a good sport about it. And he said, okay, you know, I'm just going to let this play out. We'll see what happens. And the deadline pressure that was coming was August 30th or September 10th, whichever one you choose to subscribe to. But either way, the 49ers weren't going to carry Garoppolo's old contract into the 2022 regular season. And because of that, once these dates crept up, and it seemed that August 30th was the actual chosen deadline in this situation, that made both sides come to the table, play ball. And they could have either played hardball. The 49ers could have said, you know, okay, fine, we're not offering you anything. You know, this is the end of the road. And Garoppolo could have also said, okay, just release me. Fine. They could have just had this game of chicken, this staring contest. But that's not what happened. They both realized that it was in the best interest of both parties to come to an agreement that kept Jimmy Garoppolo around as a backup for a price that the 49ers could afford while, you know, staying in the structure of their longer term financial plans. And they reached that decision and that agreement by giving him a guaranteed deal worth $6.5 million for the season that also included a lot of incentives. And those incentives now cover Jimmy Garoppolo in case Trey gets hurt, in case he does end up playing a lot. And that way he'll be at least partially fairly compensated. I think if Garoppolo had the 49ers a Super Bowl, he would probably want more money. But either way, it's a bridge for Garoppolo to get to free agency in 2023 where he can make a lot more money. And it ends up being the best case scenario for him because he's in a familiar setting. He likes the people here, doesn't have to start over. You know, in all likelihood, if he just went somewhere for 1 year, it would be there for 1 year and potentially on to the next place after that. So you'd have to start over twice. So this lets Jimmy Garoppolo be in a spot where Trey Lance genuinely likes him. Garoppolo genuinely likes Trey Lance. He likes George Kittle. He likes all the teammates. And, you know, it's a really good team. He could win. He could have fun. He could be with his brothers. And he makes $6.5 million guaranteed. That's a lot better than nothing guaranteed on the old contract from which the 49ers would have released him. So instead of sitting around and waiting in limbo, Jimmy Garoppolo gets to be back in that picture that you see up on the screen, back at practice. So ended up working out for everybody. Now, when Jimmy spoke today, he talked about the surgery and how, you know, this is the thing. The 49ers were taken aback by the surgery because they didn't want, you know, the 49ers wanted to believe that Garoppolo could just heal from the shoulder injury that he played through in the postseason and that they could trade him for something. But, you know, it doesn't always work that way. Life isn't always simple. The rehab wasn't taking. So Jimmy Garoppolo was taking care of his health, had the surgery. That prevented the trade, of course, in the long run. That plus the musical chairs stopping. But it was just, it was, to me, cool to see behind the curtain of what Garoppolo was thinking over the past few months. And that's exactly what he was thinking. It's what we speculated with, I think, informed speculation. Okay, this must be where Jimmy is heading with this, right? Because Jimmy probably isn't fully healthy right now. And you know, it was also silly over the course of the past few months because people just wanted to be angry because of the lack of movement. And it's like, oh, well, Jimmy Garoppolo is faking this surgery or he got it on purpose to screw up the trade. Whereas it was actually like screwing up his process. I mean, every player's goal is to get the best possible contractual situation, right? And the Jimmy Garoppolo probably could have been starting somewhere else, right? If given all the quarterback movement this offseason, had he been healthy. But that surgery prevented him from getting that job. So now he's at his probably second best option, but it was the best option at the time. By the time that August 30th or August 29th rolled around, it was Jimmy Garoppolo's best option. And now he's back with the 49ers. And he talked about all that. And, I put the thing up on the screen. Let me find this really fast for you. I think that this really symbolized everything that happened over the course of this year. And then it got really weird, right? During the entire month of August when Jimmy Garoppolo was sitting there on the side field practicing. Well, there was a day when he actually came to the main field while everybody was stretching. And let me get this up on the screen for you guys. Let's see. Get this one up here. There was a day when everybody was stretching and Jimmy Garoppolo was still doing his own thing, and he moved over to the main field, or actually he was on the main field when we walked out there. And this is what happened.
It's a floater. And he caught it. Oh my God.
Jimmy Garoppolo just throwing to himself. It was this peculiar loneliness. That's what I called it in the article. I mean, he threw that ball up high too. This peculiar loneliness to where the rest of the team is practicing and Jimmy is literally just playing catch with himself. Some people are like, oh, this is kind of sad. Some people are like, this is kind of funny. But that's what it was. It was this weird state of limbo. We may never see a state of limbo like this again. It was truly, truly bizarre. And that's why I'm like, just enjoy the ride for the entertainment value. We saw Jimmy Garoppolo, quarterback who took the 49ers to the Super Bowl and to an NFC championship game in the 2 seasons that he was generally healthy. Last year he wasn't, but he still played. We saw this guy playing catch with himself during training camp on an NFL field. I mean, it's just totally bizarre stuff, right? And now a few days later, a couple weeks later, the situation has advanced to the point where Garoppolo's re-signed with the 49ers, and he was back at practice right there. There's the picture of Jimmy and Trey Lance back at practice. So, wow, everything does come full circle. So be sure to check out the videos of the press conference and all that. Today we were in the facility, so let me find something for you. Talked to John Lynch and Adam Peters, as I said. I'm going to have more on that in a little bit, but just I like to give you guys the behind the scenes tours, right? So I have one right here. It's going to be a look inside the 49ers facility for you. This is the actual building where Shanahan, Lynch, and all those guys have their office. And we can go through some pictures. Let's see. There we go. All right. All right, cool. Maybe I can make that bigger. There we go. Yeah. All right. So this is you take a staircase up. When you enter through the lobby where you see all 5 of the Lombardi trophies. And I'll look at that in a bit. But obviously you got the big picture of Dwight Clark making the catch over Everson Walls. This is the John McVay draft room. So this is where they actually, this is the war room during the draft. This is where we were today interviewing Lynch and Shanahan. Lynch and Adam Peters. Sorry, Shanahan wasn't there. Lynch sat in this chair. Adam Peters sat here. I have video of the full half hour up as well. These TVs, they have boards and stuff there that they can use during the draft. So cool meeting room. They have a big mural of Candlestick, which is pretty neat, in the 49ers facility. And then I spoke about the Lombardi trophies. Those are the 5 Lombardi trophies. There's the security guard at the front of the facility. So they have them all on display. And if they get the 6th, well, they're probably going to have to redo that little display case. So that is the 49ers facility as seen today. All right. And that is the article as seen today. So be sure to check it out. Enjoy the ride. It was fun stuff. Jimmy Garoppolo spoke again. It was very different than when he spoke 7 months ago in that tearful farewell. So anyway, a lot happening in 49ers land. Let's move into the weekend. Subscribe to The Athletic. Subscribe to the channel. Friday, tomorrow, a lot to process, a lot to digest, a lot more content coming your way. So be sure that you're on top of everything. Sub to The Athletic, guys. And obviously, I'm on Twitter as well. All right, everybody, take care. You all have a great evening. We'll see you soon.